Hey there, thanks for joining us. This is I-80 Sports, the Designated Pundits. Today we are previewing the 2024 Major League Soccer season for the Columbus Crew. Today we are joined by Ty Fisher from The Massive Report. Ty, tell us a little bit about yourself and where we can find your work.
Yeah, definitely. I've been in the journalism business for about 10 years. It's been an absolute blast. Got to cover a couple MLS Cups, a couple international tournaments. And most of my stuff can be found on massivereport.com or at Fisher Tyler __ on Twitter.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And congratulations. The MLS Cup is in the possession of the Columbus Crew. So, it was a long fought and very interesting playoff season, and one that was, punctuated by quite a busy season overall for the Columbus Crew. And we're going to talk about a lot of the changes that were made. But first, we do want to recap exactly what happened during the course of last season. To extrapolate the future, we need to know about the past. So I took some notes here. It's the first season under Wilfried Nancy, and this is the first time I've really thought a team went out and courted their coach. They picked their guy. They went out. They paid what they had to pay. This was the plan. He was plan A, and they aggressively went after him, got him, and look what you guys were rewarded. 16-9-9 record, third in the East. But their plus 21 goal differential was actually the best in Major League Soccer. They had a great win, the postseason derby win over FC Cincinnati, and they won MLS Cup for a third time, their seventh club trophy. Ty, how are things in Crewland?
It's been a definite great offseason so far. Short, given the fact that MLS Cup was December 9th and our players reported just like this past weekend. But everything's going well. We're anxious for the season to get started against Atlanta and hopefully get our second consecutive MLS Cup.
Love it. It's always harder the second time around, but that is the goal.
I like the ambition.
We talked about this a little bit today, how, it's MLS Cup or bust. That should be every team's goal, and that will be what FC Cincinnati looks to repeat on during next season. I did take some notes, and one of the interesting things I thought about the Columbus Crew was that they made some mid-season adjustments. Now, we see this around Major League Soccer, but you see it a lot more in, like, baseball, where teams, trying to make that push, try to get the last of their guys, and even if everything is great in their land, they're trying to improve, grab a relief pitcher or something like that. Well, you guys had a big fire sale this summer. Zilrayan, Dejanek, Eli Room, and Madran were all sent out, and that led to the purchase of Diego Rossi, but it all worked out. Let's talk about how aggressive this team was during the transfer window and how much that meant for the team moving forward.
Yes, I think the biggest one was the Lucas Zilrayan transfer. It was one that nobody saw coming. There were rumors about it, and I asked around to some sources, and nothing concrete is about that. We see rumors from unverified sources all the time. I think we can agree to that. But it was before the Club America game in the Leagues Cup when it was official, and it was just an absolute kind of a shock because we're getting rid of our number 10. Somebody who helped lead the Crew to the 2020 MLS Cup in his first year, right? Then you lose a big guy, Milos Dejanek, and wonder how can the Columbus Crew be defensively, right? The whole situation with Eloy Room at the beginning of the season, in my opinion, is still a mystery. We knew one thing, but we're told another thing. We don't know exactly what happened, but you look at the rise of Patrick Schulte from Columbus Crew 2 to the Columbus Crew. He's won MLS Next Pro Cup last year with Crew 2, MLS Cup champion this year. And then Jimmy Madranda, one that was kind of a sure, like, we know he's not going to get any playing time. If he does, it's probably going to be in the garbage time, like, +3 of second half stoppage time, he'll come in 90 +2, right? Good thing is that he got the equalizing goal against Toronto earlier in the season, so that helped a lot. But the aggressiveness that Wilfred Nancy had when he came to Columbus was, the first thing he did was assess the team and see what we needed. And obviously, with that came Diego Rossi stepping right in. Not really the Diego Rossi that people know when he was with the LAFC, but coming in mid-season from Fenerbahce, he kind of took on the role of replacing what we lost in Lucas. But I tell people all the time, you can't really take Lucas Zelleran tendencies and put them into another player because they're two separate players. They both have different styles and techniques. But with the adjustment that Rossi has had under Nancy, you can see that he has a resemblance of Zelleran, and that helped us win against FC Cincinnati in the postseason and ultimately MLS Cup.
All right, before we head into the contributors, I want to throw over to Scott. I had to interrupt him a little bit before. For those of you who are just watching live, he's sitting in his car outside of the, what is that, the ski lodge, I guess?
So I am actually right next to the ski hill. I'm just going to, don't get sick, but those are people skiing. And just over here, in case you're getting a little background noise, there's a little barbecue going on. So apologies for the background noise, but I'm very dedicated to my craft, and so I wasn't gonna miss this. I have a lot of respect for the Columbus Crew, and actually a lot of admiration for Wilfred Nancy in particular. And just on this last point, Ty, I remember watching the mid-season transfers for Columbus, and I was very kind of concerned about where that was going. So I was like, are they in this rebuilding mode? Are they really giving it up this year? And the answer to that was all no. They weren't giving it up. Everything was done with purpose. That was really, really impressive. But anyways, listeners, if I have to get muted, if Bob has to mute me or whatever, apologies about the background.
We'll bring you in whenever it's time for you to talk, and I'll mute you in the meantime. I know what those guys are talking about. They're talking about the awesome RSL kit leak that happened over the past weekend. That must be what they're talking about, that barbecue. So I will definitely bring you in early and often, but I'm going to mute you in the meantime. 2023 contributors for the Columbus Crew. You had Cucho Hernandez, 21 goals. And the graphic is too small. I need to make it bigger so I can read it.
It looks like 8 assists. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. Then you had Christian Ramirez, 10 goals, 3 assists. Lucas Zelleran, 10 goals, 6 assists. So you had 3 contributors over 10 goals. Cucho, well into the Golden Boot race there. Diego Rossi, 5 goals, 5 assists. Aiden Morris, 4 goals, 4 assists. Yo Yeboah, 5 goals, 3 assists. However, I feel like he came on late. I feel like if we added postseason stats, both of those numbers would go up quite a bit. Yeah. And then you had Alexandru Matan, 2 goals, 9 assists, the leading assist guy there. When you see this contributors list, talk to us. What strikes fear? What is a positive? What's a negative? What do you see?
I think the biggest one is you look at Cucho and you look at Lucas. A lot of it at the beginning of the season was flipped, right? Cucho Hernandez was the provider. Lucas Zelleran was the goal scorer. You take out Lucas Zelleran, he goes to Saudi Arabia. You now enter Christian Ramirez. Christian Ramirez was sort of a provider / goal scorer and helping Cucho get his goals, which bumped him up into the Golden Boot race. Diego Rossi, midseason, not really good or bad, but, for somebody who's just coming back into the league and having just half a season under Nancy, I think those are pretty impressive numbers. Yo Yeboah, a definite improvement from, the last couple years under Caleb Porter. Aiden Morris, 4 goals, 4 assists. He matched his personal goal that he set at the beginning of the season, if I remember correctly. And Alexandru Matan, a very speedy but yet contributor to goal scoring. I know when we talked to him a couple of days ago, one thing that he said he wanted to work on was his goal scoring ability, his finishing, and working on his runs in the box. I think the biggest one that I mentioned earlier was just the flip-flop of Lucas and Cucho, because you expect Cucho Hernandez, a striker, to get all the goals, but he was the main one providing the goals, sitting back behind Christian Ramirez a little bit until Lucas left, bringing Alexandru Matan. Now Cucho gets put to the front, and Matan and Ramirez kind of split those, I want to say like the false 9, double false 9, maybe double 10 roles.
Great. So real quick, MVP.
Of the season?
Yeah.
obviously for the Columbus Crew, because you're not going to talk to me about Lucho Acosta.
No. Like the MVP for Columbus Crew.
Yeah, no, it has to be Cujo Hernandez. Obviously, we saw what he did when he came to the league last year or 2 years ago. I guess now you can say 2 years ago, and he kind of put on a show really quick under his first full year with the club. Now we see what he's capable of. He has the goal scoring ability. He has the contribution ability, and he's just an overall guy that you fear on the pitch, right?
Any overperformers?
I wouldn't say no. I think everybody either met their expectation or was just kind of underneath the bar. Wilfred Nancy is one guy who wants to push these guys every day in training, every game. If you can score 1 goal, all right, next game we're going to get 2 goals. Next game, 3 possibly. He just wants to push these guys to the best of their ability.
I got 2 here because you guys had some forward depth that just scored unbelievable quantities. You did have in 530 minutes, Jason Russell Rowe, 4 goals, 2 assists. That's an overperformance.
Yeah, Jason is definitely one of those. He's quiet but deadly if you get him in the right situation, right? Leading goal scorer for MLS Next Pro last year, the season MVP for MLS Next Pro. You get him in MLS, and then all of a sudden he's just kind of one of those quiet but deadly guys. We know he scored.
JRRSBD. You heard it here first.
One of those goals, I think it was against Cincinnati, the 3-0 win against Cincinnati in Columbus. But he's one of those, if you get him in the right situation, he's going to perform well.
Max Arfston with similar numbers there too. Underperformance players who did not meet expectations.
Oh man, it's so hard to pick one. But I would have to say it's Malde Amundsen. Some could argue that he did meet expectations, but you're essentially taking a winger and putting him into a center back, right? So there's a little bit of shift there in adjustment of, how far can he move forward? How far can, he go out to the wing because that's occupied by Yao Yaboa or Mo Farsi if they flip-flop. But it's if Malde Amundsen moves back to the wing because, we're getting a center back, he might be back to his normal position like he was with NYCFC. But he's told us in the past he likes being back, so he'll do whatever it takes.
Yeah, rated much higher out on as a midfield, like left wing back. 7.24 on who scored with 4 appearances, 2 goals, 1 assist, playing out wide. Scott, do you have any final thoughts before we turn the page on 2023 and look ahead to 2024?
No, I think that's a good 2023 wrap up. I'm really interested in 2024 and sort of the expectations, and I'm going to preface this for something to think about too. Just thinking about the experience of like Philadelphia from 22 to 23, where just the constant effort of being at that level, causes a drop off. I think I'm going to have some questions maybe about like Cucho, in particular, and maybe a little bit about the midfield, the engine room of this team, just in the sense of that, right? But we can get to that.
Well, let's get first to the incoming and outgoing players. You guys signed 2 guys, Derek Jones, an MLS veteran, and Marino Hinestroza, incoming players. And then outgoing players, you have Julian Gressel, headed back to play with Tata Martino in Inter Miami. So that should be a good move for him, player that we all love to watch. Let's talk about these pieces, how they fit in.
Yeah, Derek Jones, a center back, center mid kind of hybrid player, almost like a Sean Zawadzki type-esque player who's dynamic in 2 separate positions, provides depth at center back, which we know we need. We also need depth at center mid. So having Derek Jones as an option to be either one of those 2 positions will definitely help, especially given how compact the schedule is. We are going to see heavy rotation. And Hinestroza, same thing. Winger, when I saw your depth chart earlier, kind of the left wing with Yaboa and Hinestroza, I think it's more of a depth piece, But again, with how compact the schedule is, I wouldn't be surprised if we see the two of them kind of bounce back and forth between Yeboah getting some minutes and then Anastasia getting some minutes.
Yeah, and I don't see him as much as a defender as much as a left side of the field player. You know, you can have him up top. If you sub out one of those dual nines, throw him up top and let him run up and down the side there. Or you could, have him start as a left wing back, something like that. So we got to check on Scott. Scott, everything all right back there?
Apologies. I'm on a slight incline here, and that makes the phone a little unstable.
Let's take a look at this depth chart that I kind of pulled up. Up top, Christian Ramirez and Cucho. Then you got like kind of dual number nines, not really wingers, players that we're expecting to get too wide, players occupying the center of the field. That'd be Diego Rossi, Cucho, Hernandez, Matan, somewhere there on the depth chart. Let's talk about these three attacking pieces and how you see them lining up this year.
My co-host of my podcast says that's a three-headed dragon almost, right? So these three have just been an absolute game changer for us. I don't think any front three in the league can match up to Rossi, Ramirez, and Hernandez. Now you throw in Alex Matan a little bit, who's that guy who can a speedy but a skillful player that can help these guys get goals. I think the front three of Columbus is probably the best, if not the best front three in the league. Hence why we had such a high goal differential last year.
I agree there. Let's take a step back and look at the midfield because you guys are kind of spoiled for choice there. Aiden Morris and Darlington Nagbe in the center midfield position. You do have that depth piece, Derek Jones, that you guys added last year. He's going to be there somewhere. And Zawitsky also slots in. Your best two, obviously, Morris and Nagbe. Nagbe, just what a pro. What a great, solid player. This is going to be an MLS Mount Rushmore guy. One more cup and he's enshrined. That's what he is. And maybe not the sexiest player on your team, not the one who maybe draws all the eyes, but who carries the work. Actually, Scott's going to tell you right now that he is the sexiest guy on your team.
So Nagbe is just he's the workhorse, right? He's the captain. He drives a little bit of how the midfield should work. The biggest thing that when the season first started was how calm he was on the ball, right? And he wouldn't even give up the ball 2 times in a game. One of the best passers in the game, also from the midfield, almost completing 95+% of passes each game. But, you look at Aiden Morris, who is a very hardcore midfielder. We love to have Aiden Morris out in the field, right? But those depth pieces, Jones and Sean Zawadzki, is also more of, I think people kind of underrate Sean Zawadzki almost because he's played every position. Last game of the season, he played as a striker. He's played at center back. He's played at center mid. If you are able to throw in Sean Zawadzki anywhere and take off like Nagbe for a fatigue purpose or performance purpose, you're not really, you're changing one great guy for another great guy. And I think that's the one thing that kind of makes Columbus fans cherish more about Zawadzki is that he's a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear you say because I was just looking at Darlington Nagbe's numbers for last year, and he put up 3,300 minutes, almost 3,400 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. 38 starts and 2 substitute appearances. Is the expectation that this guy is such a machine, and we know he is a machine, but is the expectation that he's such a machine he's going to put up numbers like that again? Or do you think this is really a year where you're going to have to rotate him more so that he is fresh and healthy for the end of the season?
I think it's more. I think more of the latter of anything because with Columbus, and I go back to this again because it's been a talking factor with how packed the schedule is. Me and my coach were doing the math. Columbus is looking at almost 2 games a week, given Leagues Cup, given CONCACAF Champions Cup, given league play, given if we participate in the Campeones Cup, which I think we will. and if and when MLS gets their stuff figured out with US Open Cup. Columbus is looking at 2, possibly 3 games a week. So we are kind of expecting Nagby to be rotated, but play these crucial matches like against Cincinnati, like against Atlanta, Miami, New York City FC, possibly LAFC when we go out there in July. I think with the rotation purposes of these guys, we're not expecting Nagby to put up numbers like he did last year, but we're kind of wanting him to put up numbers that he can get constant, passes done, constant possession like he did last year in certain games and tough games to win.
And in the end, I mean, you have Aiden Morris, who's 12 years his junior. You let the young guys eat the minutes. That's going to be great for Aiden Morris's development at 22 years old. And plus, you have all these left backs, Yeboah and Nostroza. You could slot them in there too. I'm not really worried about this midfield. I think they're going to be solid anyway. But it's almost like it's not about the midfield in Wilfried Nancy's system. Can you just talk about Wilfried Nancy and about his formation and the coaching style? What is this team play style? If I never saw the Columbus Crew play, what would I expect to see?
Well, a lot of it is a lot of questioning. If it was your first time playing, if it was your first time seeing them, because why is Darlington Nagby, or why are the center backs just standing there stationary with the ball at their feet? Nancy loves the ball. He wants to have possession, which is why I think Columbus had the highest possession throughout the entire league last year. I think it was about 50 or 60 something percent. He loves to have the ball. He wants the team to love the ball as if it was their own, right? So the way that he coaches is, he wants to draw in the pressure and break them down, going left or going right through the middle. And if it doesn't work, kind of reset, go back to, the center backs, go back to Schulte, wait for a second, draw in the pressure, and then break them down again. He also loves to work in these the gap spaces that the opposition leaves, because say we have somebody from the right wing of Cincinnati that drops in. Okay, now there's a gap in behind that we can play to. Schulte can ping the ball out to Yeboah or kind of work around the back and then go and break lines.
Love it. Now, going back to our depth chart here, you got 3 center backs, Amundsen, Camacho, and Morera, who I find league average and pretty unspectacular. They had 46 goals against last season, which is right about middle of the pack. This is not a strength, but it's not necessarily a weakness either. Can you just talk about that 3-man in the center of the back line? Do we expect an improvement? Do we expect to go get a piece? What are we expecting from them this year?
Well, given that Morera came to Columbus as a full-fledged fullback on the right-hand side, kind of converting him into a center back was a big question because Nancy loves that 3-back system.
And he has two natural fullbacks playing in the 3-back system.
Yeah, yes, for sure.
With Amundsen on the other side.
Yep. And so a lot of it was question on how will we perform defensively, right? Because you have these 2 guys that are now center backs. In comes Rudy Camacho, who's played under Wilfried Nancy before Montreal. In Montreal. And Camacho is pretty much the field general of Nancy, right? He knows what to do. He knows what Nancy wants. He knows how to direct the players. When Amundsen and Morera, before Camacho even came in, they were kind of liabilities in certain situations. But with Camacho now in the center kind of being the field general, now there's a more sense of understanding. And Morera now loves playing at that position. Amundsen now loves playing at that position. So now there's a sense of unity among that back line.
I love it. And to add, I guess, to round out the fullback position, we already talked about the left side. Hinostroza and Yeboah will be fighting for that spot, and possibly Sands when he recovers from injury. I'd love to see how he's incorporated back into the team. Outright, there was you guys kind of solidified Mo Farsi. I think he signed a 3-year extension in December, and then immediately after signing this extension, there were rumors that he might be looking to go overseas. Let's talk about that right wing back position. What does our depth look like there behind Mo Farsi, and do you think there's a chance he is sold?
Uh, I don't want to like speculate on him being sold because he is currently with the team in down in Port St. Lucie. Um, but who's not to say that something happens down the road, right? Nobody saw the same thing with Zelarayan when there were rumors of him going to Saudi Arabia, but then like right before Club America, he's sold. But Mo Farsi is one of those technical guys that gets forward, right? He has the speed to get forward. He also has the technical ability with his feet, right, to get forward. Not saying that Julian Gressel couldn't, but Julian Gressel was more so of an attacking piece as opposed to Farsi, who's more of a defensive piece, right? But Farsi, when he's on his game, is probably one of the quiet ones because he can break lines, he can get in behind on the right side, service a ball in, and hopefully create a goal scoring opportunity. It kind of worries me that we don't have a depth piece for him in case he is sold like down the road if that happens. But I say with him performing really well in the playoffs, that gave him the confidence, that gave Nancy the confidence to stick with him and get him more regular minutes.
Love it. Scott, any final questions on the depth chart before we move into predictions for the 2024 season?
No, I'm glad you addressed the Mo Farsi question though, because that was sort of what I was wondering about is what happens, what happens if he gets sold or what happens if he doesn't get sold and gets injured. But yeah, thanks for addressing that.
If I was just extrapolating from what happened last season, I would say that, they're not a dumb franchise. They're not going to sell them without a backup plan. Maybe that is something that needs to be addressed first. And maybe going out and getting right wing back depth opens them up to a possible sale or something in the future. I'm not worried about the sale. I'm more worried about an injury, picking up a knock, who's able to fill in there. And, you're not going to have someone who's, the best crosser in Major League Soccer like Julian Gressel anyway. So is it that just that you take, Hinestroza or, someone else plays on the wrong side of the field? I'm not too concerned.
We've seen that right to left before where, the right-footed right back goes and plays left back. Like it wouldn't be that crazy to have a left-footed player play over there.
And one might even say, probably throwing Steven Moreira out there and putting Jones at center back, right? But I think the question is, how many minutes will Derek Jones see as a center back to get comfortable with Camacho and Amundsen? How many minutes will Jones see as a center mid to get comfortable with Morris and Nagby with these two positions having different responsibilities?
Absolutely. Love that. Love that. Let's move on and talk. I pulled up some storylines to watch for the 2024 season. Ty, feel free to plug in any of your own. First one that isn't on the chart is you guys have a very important event coming in July. Isn't the All-Star game in Columbus this year?
Yes, that is. I can't remember the date to be exact, but yes, the MLS All-Star game is going to be in Columbus. I'm hoping to get there, but I know it's going to be crazy because of the Messi effect. But it's one that is going to put Columbus, I wouldn't say on the map, but it's one that's going to put lower.com field on the map.
Absolutely. And I can't imagine that Messi plays 5 minutes of the All-Star game. At that point in the season, he's a bench piece. He just played for Argentina. He's played 25 games so far for his own club. So he'll be there kissing babies, signing autographs. I can't imagine he contributes very much on the field for that game. But, that is actually, I kind of didn't think about that. I was looking for tickets before, and I was thinking about taking a drive up there. My questions specifically for the Columbus Crew. Did they improve enough to repeat? Now, you've seen teams being reactionary all over the league. I would say that Cincinnati has built their defense specifically to deal with a 3-man forward system. That's why they went out and got a new all-star center back. It seems like if you're playing this team, you have to have 5 guys in the back. Did they improve enough? Teams have another year of film on them. Nancy's, coming into a sophomore season. Did they improve enough to repeat?
With what we have now, what we're looking at now, I think we have just the right pieces to make a run. I wouldn't say repeat because you can always find something, a flaw in the system to address. And when you address it, it could work, it couldn't work. So there's always something that's going to be wanting to be improved on. To repeat, I think it's a stretch. I've been wrong in the past before about many things. I'm hoping I'm wrong about this one, but I don't think we've improved enough to repeat, because improving enough would have to be, going out and getting another star player from Europe, right? Look at Miami and getting Messi. We'd have to go out and get Ronaldo from Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia in order to be to repeat possibly. But given with what we have, I don't think we have enough to repeat. Again, I've been wrong before. I'm hoping I'm wrong again. But I think we have enough to compete for second, third, hopefully first in the East.
I think that your priorities are backwards. I really do, and I don't mean that as a
No. Yeah, no, you're fine.
As a hit piece. This team is built to win trophies.
Yeah.
I don't care about the supporter shield. And I don't think the goal should be to win more games than anyone else over the course of the season. I think they need to do good enough to make it in, to get a high seed. You saw, the way the East walked all over the West all year. When it was between you and Cincinnati, like, we knew MLS Cup was going to be played in Ohio last year, very early in the playoff series. We're like, okay, this is, 4 games in, and we already know what state is going to be hosting. So I disagree with you in that I think that this team can win MLS Cup again. You got to get hot at the right time.
Yeah.
You got to have a few things fall your way in the playoffs, but I don't think there's any reason why they couldn't contribute. And that kind of goes into my next question. Can they produce 2 15-goal scores? Cucho Hernandez is going to be in that 18, 19, 20 number, chasing Golden Boot. Is this the year? Like, 5 years ago, we had perennial Bradley Wright Phillips. You had the guy from Atlanta, Joseph Martinez, scoring 30, 32, 30. You needed 35 goals to win the Golden Boot. Can that happen, and can that be Columbus?
I think it can. We get Diego Rossi for a full season. We get Cucho for a full season. And I think just those two alone can produce, 15, 20 goals by themselves. Right, each can get 15 to 20 goals. Diego Rossi, we're hoping, at least I hope, gets back to his ways when he was with LAFC. And with Cucho Hernandez, we obviously know how many goals he scored last year. Can he pick up right where he left off? So I think, given that Cucho now has one whole year under Nazi under his belt, he knows his responsibility. Diego will have one full year under Nazi. He'll know his responsibility given when he came in last year. And can they both kind of pick up right where they left off? If they can pick up right where they left off, I see at least 2 players fighting for the Golden Boot from Columbus.
Great. Now, my next 2 questions kind of go hand in hand. First is, who are the youth that we should be watching? Are there any young players on the squad that have the chance to jump up and take a starting spot? And the second one kind of goes within that. Will Sands. He should be returning from injury early this season, I believe, in the next few months. What does his return look like?
To touch on the first one, obviously we have our 3 draft picks. If they choose to, forego their last year or 2 in college and go with the MLS route, we could possibly see, one of those 3 guys. I can't remember the names right off the top of my head, but I don't see them getting a jump right away into MLS, right? Maybe Crew 2 with MLS Next Pro to get kind of their fitness up and get used to the demand that MLS brings. As far as senior team goes, we've already had, Mo Farsi and Jason Russell-Rowe. I'm looking at Jason Russell-Rowe to possibly fight for a starting spot, and Max Arston also, a very technically given guy who's performed well when he was with San Jose Earthquakes 2 and MLS Next Pro, then drafted to Columbus. It was a questionable thing because we didn't know how that happened, but Max Arston is one of those gifted guys that is hungry for a goal every chance he gets, runs into the box, shots taken, follow throughs on rebounds and whatnot. Given I think he scored 1 goal last year, and it was against Atlanta.
Arston scored 3 goals and 2 assists, and he only played 273 minutes.
Yeah.
He had 3 starts and 10. He was subbed in 7 times for 10 total appearances. I mean, him and Russell Rowe have combined for 800 minutes. 7 goals and 4 assists. Like, that is absurd. But my question is, who are they going to replace? If you need to push him in the starting lineup, how?
I mean, one could say,
is it Christian Ramirez because he's the oldest? Maybe he comes off in the 85th minute.
I mean, like, Christian Ramirez is, in my book, a super sub, right? I mean, given what he did last year and against Cincinnati, it was just, and the goals he scored coming off the bench, it was more utilizing. Maybe he can come off the bench and give us a spark that we need in, second half. But one could argue that Arston could replace Matan, right? Or Jason, or one of those who can replace Matan, because Matan he's up and down. There's no steadiness with him. He's up and down. Now, as far as Will Sands goes, I can't remember. I think it was a Charlotte game away when he tore his ACL. He actually ended his thing. He was coming back, or his return is earlier than expected, I believe.
It was April 23rd when he received that injury. So if you're looking at a normal 9 months, that would put you in February. So if he's practicing with the team, I'd say that's a very healthy step.
Yeah, he has been practicing with the team. I don't think he's been with the full group yet, but he has been off to the side, doing fitness training and whatnot. I'd say probably like another month or 2 is when he could probably get back with the full team, doing 100% training and getting that leg back to working. If he returns, I think the biggest question and we get to talk to Nancy tomorrow, I believe, is where does he see Sands fitting in? Yeboah did well. Hanastro says well. Can we see Sands, getting minutes in that wing back spot? Or do we see him, kind of shifting to the right to be a depth piece for Mo Farsi, if Farsi were to, transfer out or pick up a knock like we talked about earlier?
Yeah. Oops, sorry, everybody. Just a technical point on ACL recoveries. Latest medical studies are really that you need 1 year of recovery away from full sport to actually minimize your chance of recurrence. So if you come back inside of a year, your chance of recurrence goes actually way up. Obviously, professional athletes being very fit really changes the math on that. But the other thing is just that the studies are really showing that you're grafting in a new piece. Ligaments don't heal, so you're putting something into your ligament that wasn't a ligament before or was a different ligament. It actually has to learn how to function as a ligament, and so you just players usually need more time than we like to give them to be what is really considered fully recovered. Just pulling an example, Virgil van Dijk had his ACL tear several years ago. He just talked about in this last year, after 2 years being back, he just talked about feeling like he's back to himself, right? So I guess just a note for the Columbus fans, be patient, be excited, be supportive, but just be patient, as guys come back from injury, but especially that injury, that's going to look different. It's going to feel different for a while. So even though he might be close, there's still maybe some extra months to tack onto that.
And there's no reason to push him out there ahead of time. No. You're going to need those summer reinforcements after the All-Star break. So maybe he'll play, run on the sideline, dress for a couple games. I'd be fine with that. Ty, let's finish up with some quick hitters. What are the strengths of this team?
The strength of this team is possession, obviously. Also, one of the strengths is, just being able to break lines. Um, Again, I go back to having one of the best goal differentials in the league, if not the best goal differential in the league, scoring the most goals in the league. Also, our offense is definitely a force to be reckoned with. Creating goals, scoring goals, being able to do all these things compact into 90 minutes and kind of not let our guard down or break. We bend but not break. Will really help how we shape 2024.
Great. What are the weaknesses of this squad?
Um, Weaknesses of the squad is I think we get too caught up in the attack sometimes, and get kind of flushed out to where teams are throwing two numbers to one side but letting one guy on the other side go. So we're kind of thrown to the wolves a little bit defensively. Um, but I think with a couple more depth pieces, we'll be able to be stout at the back line. And the other thing is just finishing out games. I can't count on my hand how many times that we've given up games in the last couple minutes last year or 2 years ago under Porter. But the ability to close out games was still a prime factor weakness this year when we couldn't win against Orlando in Orlando. We gave up the equalizer against Atlanta towards the end of the season. It's just one of those things that we have to continue to work on.
Absolutely. If I would say one weakness, and I'd say this has kind of do with your midfield a little bit, and then your fullbacks playing center back, aerial duels. Just not winning in the air. I think that's one way to be kind of susceptible. But otherwise, this team is dictating games. Like, people change their formation when they see that they're playing the Columbus Crew, and I think that could be a strength for you guys for sure.
Yeah.
Now, I picked out a couple storylines that I would like to for everyone to keep an eye on this year with Columbus Crew. Is there anything else you're keeping an eye on? What storylines do you think are going to come out of this squad this season?
Oh man, I think it's more so of one of the biggest question is Nancy going to have a sophomore slump, right? You take a look at Caleb Porter. When 2020 hit, we won the Cup. 2021, 2022, we missed the playoffs, right? Wilfred Nancy, his first year as head coach, we won the Cup. Is he going to have a sophomore slump? Are we not going to make the playoffs this year? Or we're not going to make playoffs next year, even though that's way too far in advance to tell. But we've seen patterns with Columbus of winning the Cup, not making the playoffs, winning the Cup, not making the playoffs. So I think one of the biggest ones is, can Nancy continue to do what he does best this year? All the teams have footage on us. They know how they can break us down. They know what we do. It's more of a fact, can we continue to do it and throw an unexpected twist into these games?
Thank you so much. Ty Fisher from the Massive Report. One last time, let us know where we can find your work and any final thoughts on the Crew for the 2024 season.
So a lot of my work can be found on massivereport.com or on Twitter at FisherTyler__. And any final thoughts, I just think that the Cup is better than the Shield.
Love it.
Great
Scott,
final
any last
thoughts.
words?
Yeah, look, just last thing. I'm going to sort of blend what you guys said earlier. Ty, I do think this team has continued to improve. I think you're fair to worry about a sophomore slump, but if this team had not won the MLS Cup last year, we would be talking about them as an upswing team, right? And about Cup contenders this year. Winning the Cup did not make them not Cup contenders. This is still a young team. Some of the pieces are still new. I think you've improved, added depth pieces in some of the right areas to give yourself a little bit of cover. Yeah, there's still some things, but if Cincinnati taught us anything, it's that winning the Cup is about being hot at the right time. And if this team is hot at the right time, there's no reason they can't win the Cup. If they're not hot, then they won't win the Cup. But that's the same story for Miami or Cincinnati or anybody.
Yeah.
So lots of optimism around this team. I still think this is an upswing team. And if they can be good about, mid-season rebuilding again and adding some depth pieces in the defense, this team just gets scarier and scarier.
Absolutely. We always talk about how teams get better by the signings, the additions they make, and not thinking more about the growth of the individual players, the growth of the scheme. I mean, this team went 8-3-1 in the final 12 games of the season. Before that, they were good, but like kind of above 500. 8 wins, 3 draws, 1 loss. Their last loss before that was September 17th, and then they went on like a 20-game run. Like, just absolutely absurd what you guys did to finish the season.
Oh yeah. Aiden Morris keeps stepping up. Like, maybe there's a natural replacement for Darlington Nagbe. Like, who would have said that?
Yeah.
But if he keeps growing, he's only 22. Like, why not?
Yeah. Well, I mean, people have been saying that he's getting interest overseas already. I wouldn't put it past him. He's one of the best midfielders in the league. But I think it's just more so of, can we keep him long enough to win another cup?
We will see. Certainly the window's open for a few years. That is the 2024 Columbus Crew. Good luck, Ty. Thank you for taking the time out on a Sunday afternoon to join us. Go and watch those NFL games that are taking place right here at 3:15 on a Saturday afternoon. Thank you, everyone at home, for watching The Designated Pundits. Make sure you subscribe. Find us at I80_sports on Twitter, on youtube.com/I80sports, or you can Google The Designated Pundits. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. Ty, thank you one last time, and thank you guys for joining us on a Sunday afternoon. Have a great weekend.